Hello, students. I am continuing to read in Magnus Chase, The Gods of Asgard, The Hammer of Thor. Pretty exciting book. I'm on chapter 28. And if you order now, you also get this cursed ring, is the title of chapter 28. Father was waiting, all right. He paced in the living room, sipping golden juice from a silver goblet, while Ing stood nearby waiting for a spill to happen. When we walked in, Mr. Alderman turned towards us, his face a mask of cold anger. "Where have you?" ? I guess he didn't expect to see us soaked in sweat, covered in grass and twigs, our slime-caked shoes leaving snug trails across his white marble floor. Mr. Alderman's expression was one of the best rewards I've ever gotten, right up there with dying and going to Valhalla. Hearthstone popped his canvas bag on the floor with a muffled chatter. He signed, "Payment," palms up, brushing one finger towards his dad like he was flicking a coin at him. The way Hearth did it made it look like an insult. I like that. Mr. Haldeman forgot that he wasn't supposed to acknowledge sign language. He asked, "Payment? But how?" "Come upstairs and we'll show you." I glanced behind Alderman, where Ing stood wide-eyed, a grin slowly spreading across her face. "We've got a demon skin rug to cover." Ah, the sound of golden Monopoly tokens cascading across a fur rug. "There is nothing sweeter," I promised. I promise you." Hearthstone tipped over the canvas sack and walked around the rug, hosing it down with the tolerant of wealth. Mr. Alderman's face got paler. In the doorway, Ing jumped up and down, clapping with excitement, heedless of the fact that she hadn't paid her master for the privilege. When the last of the gold was out, Hearthstone stepped back and threw down the empty bag. He signed, Wirgild paid. Mr. Alderman looked stunned. He did not say, "Good job, son," or "Hey, boy, I'm richer," or "Did you rob Elfish Treasury Department?" He crouched and inspected the pile, coin by coin, dagger by dagger. There were a miniature dog and steam trains. There are miniature dogs and steam trains, he noted. "Why?" I coughed. "I think the previous owner liked board games, solid gold board games." Mr. Alderman continued his inspection, making sure that the entire rug was covered. His expression turned more and more sour. "Did you leave the property to acquire this?" "Because I did not give you permission to leave our property." "Nope," I said. "You own the wilderness behind the backyard, right?" "Yes, he does," Ing said. The master glared at her, and she hesitantly added, "Because Mr. Alderman is a very important man." "Look, sir," I said, "it's obvious Hearthstone succeeded. The rug is covered. Just admit it, and I will be the judge." "I'll be the judge," he snarled. "This is all about responsibility, something you younger folk do not understand. You want Hearthstone to fail, don't you?" Alderman scowled. I expect him to fail. There is a difference. The boy earned his punishment. I am not convinced he has the potential to pay it off. I almost screamed. Hearthstone had been paying his entire life. I wanted to pour Advery's treasure straight down Alderman's throat and see if that convinced him of his son's potential. Hearthstone brushed his fingers against my arm. He signed, calm. "Ready, the ring." I tried to control my breathing. I didn't understand how Hearth could endure the father's insults. That's incredible. He had a lot of practice, sure, but the old elf was intolerable. I was glad Jack was back in pennant form, because I would have ordered him to give Mr. Alderman a full Brazilian treatment. In the pocket of my jeans, Avari's ring was so light I could barely feel it. I had to resist the urge to check on it every few seconds. I realized that was one reason I felt so irritated with Mr. Alderman. I wanted him to say that the debt was paid. I didn't want Hearthstone to be right about needing the ring too. I kind of wanted to keep it. No, wait, that's not right. I wanted to return it to Avari so we didn't have to deal with the curse. My thoughts on the subject were starting to get muddled, as though my head was full of river sludge. Aha! Mr. Alderman cried triumphantly. He pointed to the top of the rug. At the nape of his neck, where the fur was thickest, a single blue hair spouted from the treasure like a stubborn weed. Oh, come on, I said. That'll just take a minor adjustment. I shifted the treasure so the hair was covered, but as soon as I succeeded, another hair popped up from the spot where I'd taken the gold. It was like the same stupid blue hair was following me around, defying my efforts. There is no problem, I insisted. Let me get out my sword, or if you have a pair of scissors. The debt is not paid, said Mr. Alderman, as he insisted. Unless you can cover the entire hair right now with more gold, I am going to charge you for disappointing me and wasting my time. Say half this treasure. Hearthstone turned to me, no surprise on his face, just glum resignation. The ring. A wave of murderous resentment washed over me. I didn't want to give up the ring, but when I looked at the white boards around the room, all the rules and menus items, all the expectations that Mr. Alderman expected Hearthstone not to meet, the curse of Avari's ring was pretty strong. It whispered to me, telling me to keep it and get filthy rich. But the urge to see Hearthstone free of his father, reunite with Blitzen, and out of this toxic house, that was stronger than the curse of the ring. I brought out our secret last bit of treasure. A hungry light kindled in Mr. Alderman's face, alien eyes. Very well. Place it on the pile. Father, Hearthstone said. Warning. The ring is cursed. I will not listen to your hand gestures. You know what he's saying. I held up the ring. This ring taints whoever owns it. It'll ruin you, Father. Heck, I've only had it for a few minutes and it's already messing with my mind. Take the gold that's already on the rug. Call the debt paid. Show some forgiveness, and we'll return this ring to its previous owner. Mr. Alderman laughed bitterly. Forgiveness? Ha ha! What can I buy with forgiveness? Will it bring Alderon back to me, your brother? Personally, I haven't punched the old dude in the face. Personally, I would have punched the old dude in the face, but Hearthstone, stepping towards his father, he looked genuinely worried. Curse of Afanir, he signed. Do not. Avery had mentioned the name. It sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. Maybe Faulkner was a Powerball lottery winner. Hearthstone gestured, please. hand flat against his chest, making a circle. It struck me that what pleased was just a more relaxed, less angry version of sorry. The two elves stared at each other across a pile of gold. I could almost feel Alfheim swaying in the branches of the world tree. Despite everything Alderman had done to him, Hearthstone still wanted to help his father. He was making one last effort to pull his dad out of a hole much deeper than Avery's. No, Mr. Alderman decided. Pay the Wildergild and stay in my debt, both of you. Hearthstone bowed his head in defeat. He motioned at me to give up the ring. First, the Scarfnug stone, I said. Let me see that you're keeping your side of the bargain. Alderman grunted. Ing, bring me the Skalgernut stone from its case. The security code is Greta. Hearthstone flinched. I guess Greta was his mother's name. The Huller, the servant, scurried off. For a few tense moments, Hearthstone, Alderman, and I stood around the rug and stared at each other. No one suggested a name of Monopoly. No one yelled, "Yippee!" and jumped to the pile of gold, though I admit I was tempted. Finally, Ing came back, and the blue-gray wheatstone cupped in her hand. She offered it Mr. Alderman with a curtsy. Alderman took it and handed it to his son. I give this to you freely, Hearthstone, to do with it as you please. Let its power be yours. He glowered at me. Now, I want the ring, said Mr. Alderman. I was out of reasons to delay, but it was still difficult. With a deep breath, I knelt and added Avery's ring to the treasure, covering the last bit of fur. Good, the deal is done, I said. Huh? Alderman's gaze was fixed on the treasure. Yes, except for one thing. You promised me media exposure, Magnus Chase. I have arranged a little party for tonight. Ing! The huddler servant jumped. Yes, sir. Preparations are coming along. All 400 guests have RSVP'd. 400? I asked. How did you have time to set all this up? How did you know we'd succeed? Ha! The crazy light in Alderman's eyes did not calm my nerves. I didn't know you'd succeed. I didn't care if you succeeded. I planned on arranging parties every night while you stayed here, Magnus Chase. Preferably forever. But since you paid the real guild so quickly, we have to make tonight count. As for now, I am Alderman, the House of Aldermen. No one would dare turn down my invitation. Behind his back, Ing gave me a fantastic nod and drew a line across her neck. And now, Mr. Alderman snatched up the cursed ring out of the hoard, placed it on his finger, and held it out to admire it like someone newly engaged. Yes, this will look lovely with my formal attire. Hearthstone, I will expect you and your guest. Hearthstone, where are you going? Apparently Hearth had enough of his father. With a snug enough stone in his hand, he hauled Blitzen upright by the scarf harness and lugged him into the bathroom. A moment later, I heard the shower running. What? Maybe I should go help him, I said. What? Alderman snapped. Yes, fine. Such a lovely ring. Ing, make sure our young scoundrels are dressed appropriately for the party. And send some of the staff to help me with this gold. I must have every piece of treasure weighed and counted and polish it. I will look wonderful. It will look wonderful polished. And while you're at it, I didn't want to leave Ing alone in the same room with Mr. Crazy Ring, but I was getting nauseated watching Alderman flirt with his fortune. I ran to join my friends in the bathroom. The only thing more disturbing than a severed god's head in your bubble bath. A bleeding granite dwarf in your shower. Hearth propped Blitzen under the shower head. As soon as the running water crusades over Blitzen's head, his form began to soften. His old gray face darkened into warmth brown flesh. Warm blood flowed from his wounded gut, and swirled around the drain. His knees buckled. I lurched into the stall to hold him up. Hearthstone fumbled with the Snognuck stone. He pressed it against the gushing wound, and Blitzen gasped. The flow of blood stopped instantly. I'm a goner, Blitzen croaked. Don't worry about me, you crazy elf. He spit out water. Why is it raining? Hearthstone hugged him fiercely, crushing Blitzen's face against his chest. Hey, Blitz complained. Can't breathe here. Hearth, of course, couldn't hear him and didn't seem to care. He rocked back and forth with the dwarf in his arms. Okay, buddy, Blitzen patted him weakly. There. He looked up at me and silently asked several thousand questions with his eyes, including, why are the three of us taking a shower together? Why am I not dead? Why do you smell like pond scum? What's wrong with my elf? Once we were sure he fully unpetrified, Hirsch shut off the water. Blitzen was too weak to move, so we slid him into a sitting position right there in the shower. Ing rushed to the bathroom with a stack of towels and some fresh clothes. From Hirsch's bedroom came the sound of spilling coins, like a dozen of slot machines paying out, punctuating by the occasional crazy laughter. You may want to take your time in here, Ing warned us, glancing nervously behind her. It's a bit hectic out there. Then she left, closed the door behind her. We did our best to get ourselves cleaned up. I used an extra belt to make a strap for the snug-of stone and tied it around my waist. Tucked my shirt over it so it wouldn't be too obvious if Mr. Alderman got a case of tasty backsies. Blitzen's wound has closed nicely, leaving just a small white scar. But he bemoaned the damage to his suit, the sword slash in the vest, and heavy bloodstained. No amount of lemon juice will get this out, he said. One fabric turns to granite and back again. Well, the discoloration is permanent. I didn't bother pointing out that at least he was alive. I knew he was in shock and dealing with it by concentrating on things he understood and could fix, such as his wardrobe. We sat together on the bathroom floor. Blitzen used his mending kit to stitch together bath towels for extra Elfheim sun protection, while Hearthstone and I took turns filling him in on what had been happening. Blitzen shook his head in amazement. You did all that for me, you crazy, wonderful idiots. You would have gotten yourself killed. And Hearth, you subject yourself to your father? Heaven's sake, that's terrible. I never would have asked for you to do that. You swore you'd never come back here. And for good reason. I also swore to protect you, Hearth sighed. My fault you were stabbed. And Sam's... Stop right there, Hearth said. It wasn't your fault or hers. You can't cheat a prophecy. That mortal wound was bound to happen. But now you fixed it. So we can stop worrying about it. Besides, if you want to blame someone, blame that foolish Randolph, he glared at me. No offense, kid, but I have a strong desire to murder your uncle with extreme prejudice. No offense taken, I said. I'm tempted to help you. And yet I remember Randolph's horrifying cry when he stabbed Blitzen, and the way he followed Loki like an abused dog. As much as I wanted to hate my uncle, I couldn't help feeling sorry for him. Now that I met Mr. Alderman, I was starting to realize that no matter how bad your family is, it can always get worse. Hurt finished bringing Blitzen up to speed in sign language, explaining how he robbed Avery and even threatened with multiple Powerball jackpots. You're both out of your minds to face that dwarf, Blitzen said. He's infamous in Nadavari, even craftier and greedier than all the rest. Could we please not mention him, I pleaded. I still had nightmares about the old dwarf who had challenged Blitzen to a crafting contest last January. I never wanted to see another rocket-powered Granny Walker as long as I lived. Blitzen frowned at Hearth. And you say your father has the ring now? Hearthstone nodded. I tried to warn him. Yes, but still, that ring can warp its owner's mind beyond recognition. After what happened to our friends and the lottery winners, well, there's an endless list of people that ring has destroyed. Who are they? I asked. Those people you mentioned. Blitzen held up his bath-towel creation, a sort of terry cloth burqa with sunglasses taped over the eye holes. Look, tragic story, kid, lots of death. The important thing is we must convince Mr. Alderman to give up that ring before it's too late. We have to stay at this party of his for a while, right? That'll give us a chance. Maybe he'll be in a good mood and we can make him see sense. I don't think so. Hearthstone grunted. My father? Doubtful. Yeah, I said, and if he won't see sense, then we run, Blitzen says, and we hope Alderman doesn't. From the next room, Ian called, Mr. Hearthstone. Her tone verged on panic. We stumbled out of the bath and found that Hearth's bedroom had been completely stripped. The mattress is gone, the whiteboards have been removed, leaving bright white shadows on only slightly less white walls. The pile of treasure and the blue fur rug had vanished as if the Wilgild had never happened. Ing stood in the doorway, her bonnet askew on her head. Her face was flushed, and she was anxiously pulling tufts from the ends of her tail. Mr. Hearth, the guests have arrived. The party has started. Your father's asking for you, but... Hearthstone signed. What's wrong? Ing tried to speak. No words came out. She shrugged helplessly, as if she could not describe the horror she had witnessed at Mr. Alderman's mix and mingle. It's probably your best to see for yourself, Mr. Hearthstone. That's chapter 28.